What's up everybody, welcome back. Today's video I'm going to edit some images that I took at Spruce Knob Lake in West Virginia earlier this year, and this is basically kind of like a faux panorama where I took my foreground shots here first, and then I rotated my camera up and took the sky shots right here. Now I took a series of 20 photos for the foreground and 20 photos for the sky that I'm going to stack in Starry Landscape Stacker. If you're on a PC, obviously you're going to be using Sequator. So let's jump right into it. These are all JPEGs just to speed up the process, but typically you want to edit these in RAW. And we're going to open up Starry Landscape Stacker. And you just want to find your images. 15 to 20 images is sufficient. You really don't need to go anything past that. So let's go to open. Now for this particular image, I'm just focused on the water area right here. I don't really care about the sky since we're changing that out. So I'm just going to paint my little dots in here. And then hit Find Sky. And let's just zoom in here and fine tune this. And you just want to make sure you hit some of these tree stumps and branches or whatever's in your photo so it doesn't come out blurry in the final image. And I'm just going to speed this process up so you guys don't have to see me paint every little nook and cranny here, but it's only going to take me about 5 minutes. So let's speed it up. Alright, that should be good enough for this photo, and now you want to hit Align and Composite. So you want to File, Save, and I already did this earlier to save some time, so we're going to X out of this. Now we're going to repeat this process for our sky, and I'm going to skip that step since you guys already know what we're doing here. We're just going to stack these 20 photos, which I already did, and I have the image right here. And we're going to select our foreground stack, right click, go to Edit In, Open as Layers in Photoshop. Alright, so here we are in Photoshop and we have our two images. I'm going to expand the canvas so we have a little more space to work with. So go to Image, Canvas Size, and I'm just going to make it 12 for now. I could always crop it back down if it's too large. And I want to drag my foreground to the bottom here. Now I just want to click on my sky layer, bring it to the top, and lower the opacity, and just pull this so it's relatively in a line with my foreground layer here. It's going to be slightly off since the camera lens was shifted at an angle, so it's not going to be perfect, but that's pretty close. Make the opacity 100%. I just want to take the burn tool and burn the horizon a little bit because it is brighter than my foreground horizon. You can see here the trees are a little bit darker, so I want to try and match that a little bit better. So go to Burn, Shadows, at 4% is fine. Make this around 200 pixels, that should be good. We'll zoom in here and just burn this down a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. We're not going to go much further down than that. So let's create a layer mask, but I want to bring my foreground back on top and create that layer mask. Make sure you have black selected to reveal. And we'll go with 100% opacity and a larger brush. And as I get closer, I'm just going to reduce the size of this brush and lower my opacity down to around 50%. And I'm just going to hit the tips of these trees Zoom in here, make sure you brush it enough times so you don't have any blurring from the two images together. Alright, easy peasy. And now we could crop it. Alright, so now we have the two images blended together, so I could flatten the images. And I'm going to make a copy. And I just want to fix this up a little bit. You see we have quite a bit of noise in the shadow areas down here, so we're going to take our burn tool again. I'm going to lower the exposure to around 2% and just start burning in this area to darken it up a little bit, and this will help conceal some of the noise. I really want to focus on this area and burn the stump and the fallen trees. That way I could hide a lot of this noise and make it more of a silhouette. So I'm just going to speed this up because it's going to take a few minutes. Alright, so now that I'm done burning, I'm going to switch to my dodge tool, go to the highlights, and I just want to dodge some of the highlights here in the water with the core of the Milky Way. And that looks pretty good. We're also going to dodge the corners here to remove some of that vignetting. So we'll go to our midtones and maybe even our shadows. So let's start with midtones first. And just hit up both corners. Go to shadows, same thing. Just lighten that up a little bit. Unless you prefer the vignette, it's totally your choice. Alright, so that's pretty well balanced. Now typically I would do some dodging and burning to the sky in Photoshop, but you know what? Let's jump over to Lightroom. So I'm going to flatten this image. Go to File, Save. And we're going to jump right back over to Lightroom, and I'll show you some pretty cool stuff over there. Alright, so here we are back in Lightroom, and I want to add some contrast to the sky to make the Milky Way pop a little bit more, but if I do that, it affects the whole image, and it makes my foreground way too dark for my liking. It's already a very dark foreground, so I want to try and keep that as light as possible. So I'm going to play around with some new masks that Lightroom added a few months ago. You might have already seen and played around with this, but I think it's a great addition. I'm really happy that they've done this. So we now have a select subject and a select sky. So we're going to go with select sky. And as you see, it did a pretty good job masking our sky right here. So we could just affect the sky only and not have to worry about adjustments on our foreground. So let's go with adding some contrast. I'm going to bring up my whites. Bring down the blacks a little bit. And add some clarity. And we'll play around with dehaze as well. You can see it's starting to pop really nicely. And if we want to fine tune this a little bit further in just the core area, we click on Create New Mask, and we'll go with our radial gradient. Drag that like that, and we'll rotate it. And now we could add a little bit more clarity and texture if we want to make it pop. Maybe bring up the whites a little bit more. And you get the idea. You could just make as many masks as you want to really fine tune your sky to your liking. So a great addition. Good job, Lightroom, for adding that. I really enjoy using this. So definitely play around with these masks. You know, I still enjoy using Photoshop, but this is a great alternative if you don't feel like going into Photoshop every time to really fine tune your sky. So we're going to close that out, and I just want to fix my horizon because I'm a little crooked here. And I could always play around with my aspect ratio here since I did a faux panorama. Alright, so I think that looks pretty good, and I'm going to wrap this up right here. Hopefully you guys learned something new, and I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. Just have a good time and get ready to shoot the new Milky Way season for next year. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.